So SharePoint gives us a rich event model for lists and list items, and you can register for event handlers for list templates, content types, and list instances declaratively using features, and this is done in the element manifest. You don't have to do that though. You could use the object model, but a lot of times what you will do, if you're going to use the object model, you would attach it via a feature receiver to a specific list instance. There are rich options for both lists and list items. If you want to capture events on a list, you use the SP-List Event Receiver subclass, or you would create a class that inherits from SP-List Event Receiver. And if you want your event receiver to be synchronous, then it would end in ing. So that would be like something like field adding or field deleting, field updating. And important thing to note about synchronous events is that you can actually cancel the event inside the handler or inside the receiver. So if somebody violated a business rule or something, you could prevent that action from occurring. And asynchronous events they end in ed. So these are more performant because they actually happen after the fact, and actually SharePoint actually creates a little job for these to run, so it's actually done in a different thread. And so these are the naming convention of ed, so field added, field updated, field deleted. And you would use this to take action after an event completes. So after something has been updated or deleted, maybe you want to notify someone or something, you could do it through an asynchronous event, which is a little bit faster. And then there's the list level events. These are probably a little bit rare. List adding, list added, list deleting, list deleted. Probably the most common ones that you'll be using are list item level events. So you'll use the SP item event receiver, and typically you may have business logic where you don't want somebody to add an item to a list if it doesn't meet the criteria that your business has. So you could actually add an item adding event, and then in that case, if it didn't meet the criteria, you could go ahead and cancel the event, and the item would never be added to the list. And as you can see, you have a pretty wide variety of events that you can handle. There's a lot of touch points here that you can use to go ahead and prevent data from being modified or acting on those events. So right now we're going to build a list item event receiver and take a look at how it works. We have our add link web part project here, and we're just going to add an event receiver. So when we add an item to the links list, we're going to capture that. So I'm going to go ahead and add new item, and I want event receiver, and we'll call it link list events. And so here we got the customization wizard popping up. We're going to want list item events. The list that we want is links, and what we care about is an item is being added and an item was added. So let me scroll down to that. So what we're going to do is, so an item is being added is the asynchronous event, and then an item was added. Actually, that's the reverse. So an item is being added is synchronous, and an item was added is the asynchronous. So click Finish, and we have our event receiver, and you can see we're overriding item adding and item added. And we go into our features. Actually, not our features. We have an element. So This is organized very nicely. We have our event receiver here and our elements. It's all organized under the linked list events element, or event receiver. So if we go into our elements, you can see this is the syntax. We have an event receiver for list template ID 103. So you could specify, you could change that, you could target a specific list instance if you use the list URL attribute. We'll just leave it with this. So that's the links list is list template ID 103. And our receiver name is link list events item adding. Type is item adding, item added. So the name can be whatever you want. It just needs to be something unique. But this is important. Item adding and item added. That's the type, that's the event that we're capturing. And then this is telling SharePoint, so this receiver is letting SharePoint know, hey, for all lists that have this template and this site, when this event happens, I need you to fire up, load up this assembly, and load up this class in the assembly right here. And then fire the item adding event on, or call the item adding method in the class. So that's what this is telling. And then this is the sequence number. If there was more than one event for a particular list item, then you can change the sequence number in which those events occur. So in this case, I'm going to work on item added first. So this is asynchronous. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to say event firing enabled equals false. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to update the item. You'll see here. So I'll use the properties to get a hold of the current item. And what we're going to do is we're going to modify the item. We're going to modify the notes field in the links list. We'll use the properties again. SP item event properties. That's getting passed to us. Get the current web and current user. So we'll just set in the notes, we'll just set it to the current user. And then we have to call item update. And then the next important thing, we have to call so what I did there, I have to say event firing enabled is false, because what would happen is we could have an endless loop right here because we're modifying the item. So it's just going to keep firing the event, and we're going to keep going around in circles. We have a circular reference here. It's going to just keep firing, and we're going to keep writing the code to item added, and we're going to modify it. It's going to fire again. So this stops that. So then once I'm done with my update, then I say, okay, let's turn it back on. So let's just test this one out. I'll deploy this. So we did our asynchronous event handler. And go back to the home page of the site. So we're going to click on our button of our web part to add a new item. Okay, so you notice before we have one item in the links list, so I'm going to click Add Link. Let's go back to the links list. And you can see now we have another item, but our event fired because we updated the notes with the current user. And let's just check this link. We put that in there. We didn't actually check to see if it works, so it does in fact work. Okay, so that's the asynchronous event. So now let's go back and go into item adding. in this case, since this is synchronous, we can cancel this. So I'm gonna go ahead and cancel this just to show how that works. And we can even add an error message. Go ahead and deploy this. So now when we go try to add a link, we should get an error because in the synchronous event handler, we set cancel to true. And you can see the put in the cancel event, so we set the cancel property to true, and so this raised an error. One thing though in the code that I want to change is that this is actually deprecated, and so what we're going to do, I want to show you, is using the status field. And this gives us a little bit more flexibility. So in this case, cancel with error was what we just did, so that works. But you also have other choices. So you could continue and just the item wouldn't be added, but actually you could just continue and the item would get added, or you cancel with no error, which would mean you would just you wouldn't see any error message or anything, or what we just did. And then here's a cancel with redirect, which is obsolete. So we'll just leave it with this, and we'll deploy. This should give us the exact same functionality. Actually, instead of doing that, let's just say cancel with no error. So we're going to cancel. The item's not going to get updated. And I'll just log in as administrator because it doesn't really matter who we're logged in as right now. Okay, let's go back to our links list. We have 2 items. Let's go back to the home page. Now this should just not do anything. We shouldn't get an error message. And it didn't do anything. Let's go back to our links list. We should still have 2 items. And we do. So let's just change this back to cancel with error. Deploy that. Okay, so now we should see the error message. And we do. And just to verify, we should still just have 2 items in the links list. And we do. So you can see how the synchronous list item event receiver works, and then also the asynchronous event item receiver works.